Let me call the April 5th, 2016 Stillwater Planning Commission meeting to order. Item number 2, land use items for discussion and possible action. OSU Foundation Real Estate LLC map amendment rezoning PZ 16-2072, requesting review and approval to rezone properties addressed as 506, 510, 514, and 524 South Lincoln Street from RTM to O office. Ms. Beatty.
We have a map amendment at 524 South Lincoln with the, submitted by the OSU Foundation. It's a map amendment requesting revision from residential two-family, multifamily zoning to office zoning. It's located just on the north side of 6th Street and the west side of Lincoln, across from the existing OSU Foundation, which is here along Monroe. Last month, through the Board of Adjustments, they rezoned this portion to office to match their existing parcel that they have along Monroe. And the findings are that the office zoning is appropriate between residential and the more commercial uses. It's compatible with the comprehensive plan on the south portion. It's located across from existing office property. And there's a proposed parking lot on the property that will require an SUP to be developed. Properties to the west are owned by the current property owner as well. We'll be looking at other improvements in the future there. Other than that,
Any question, Mr. Beatty?
Mike, is there the property just to the south of the existing parking lot, is the foundation on it as well?
this one right here, would they own all,
right there.
right there on the corner, Monroe and 6th?
Nope, just over.
This
right
one?
there, that's.
Yeah, they purchased all of this.
Okay,
They'll be demolishing that to do their addition there.
okay. Thank you.
And is there provision, is there a cut onto 6th at 524? That is, would that, is there a driveway or something that leads
Yeah,
onto?
you can see it on this picture here. There's a small cut
in-
there. Right?
That's through the parking lot, though, I believe, right?
State Farm.
State Farm, that's Scott Lemming's insurance.
Yeah, this
You're
is
old.
not for OSU,
Yeah.
but he said 524.
Over in the section, I'm sorry, in the last plot in the purple area, the one
Right.
that's on.
Proposed
To-
section.
To
The proposed
access
things.
6th Street from that.
To the
property.
left, Mike.
Over here,
The
One
new-
more.
this one?
Yep.
Right there, yes.
I don't know if there's an existing cut there. I think everything
I believe
accesses
it
off of
accesses
Lincoln.
from Lincoln.
The
It accesses
proposed
from
SUB will access just from Lincoln, because there's quite a bit of grade change right there
Okay.
down to 6th Street. So a driveway access there is not going to be very
Okay.
functional.
Right. And then I know there are some nice trees right there. When they do their SUP, will they say does there something have to be, is there just going to be parking lot up to 6th Street right there? Is there any requirements at all on that in terms of when they put that
Not from
in?
a zoning standpoint.
Not from a zoning
So,
standpoint.
I mean, that is,
And we'll see the SUP when it comes.
yes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Open the public hearing. Does anybody speak in favor of this item? You state your name and address, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. My name is Aaron Hale. I'm with CEC Corporation, 4555 West Memorial Road in Oklahoma City. Basically, we're working on, as the civil engineer on the project, designing everything that's necessary, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for what you have at this point. We're still working on the site layout, so I couldn't answer any questions about the parking lot, so.
Well, you've heard 2 comments already
I
that
have.
you might write down. We don't want a driveway to go on 6th Street. We already got enough. At least that's in my opinion. I believe others might have the same opinion.
Yeah.
And we like trees.
Good.
So you might consider that.
Sounds good. Appreciate that. We are trying to keep the driveway for the parking lot along Lincoln as far north away from 6th Street as possible.
Yeah. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak in favor of this? See none. Anybody like to speak against this item? See none, I'll close the public hearing. Mr. Beatty.
All right, alternatives. You can accept staff findings, recommend approval of the map amendment. You can find modification is not appropriate and recommend denial, or you can continue and table it for another meeting.
Any other question, Mr. Beatty?
I move we accept staff's findings, recommend approval of the map amendment.
Second.
Any discussion? Let's vote. The motion passes. We'll go on 3A, Plans, Policy, Ordinance for discussion. City of Stillwater Land Development Code Amendment, PZ 16-2051, requesting review and approval to amend Chapter 23, Article XXV, that must be 25, Amendment 1, Form-Based Code, Treasury Article IV, Section 4.4.2, Garage Floor Clearance. I'm not a Greek person. So, Section 4.4, Shares, Mixes, Uses, Parking Requirement, Table 18, Public Frontage, Curb Radius, Tables 23 through 28, Thoroughfare Assemblies, and Chapter 23, Article 25, to add Section 23.452. Mr. Beatty.
I won't reread the introduction, you did a fine job. We found, with the new form-based codes, we found some, let's see. We found some implementation issues when we began to do some of the design, and we had, with the Maple Street reconstruction was kind of a precursor to the form-based codes, where we were looking at trying some of the geometrics there and found some issues. And so we've removed some minimum curb radiuses to reflect current standards that allow for a little bit larger vehicles to get through. We related to that, we found some problems with emergency vehicles and some of the large waste management vehicles being able to access the area. There's a photograph of one of the new intersection curbs at Maple. I think that's at Husband and Maple. The photograph of fire trucks going down one of the streets, showing that if you look here, to allow two vehicles to pass, two large vehicles, one had to pull completely over into a parking zone. That's an issue around some of the buildings. Waste management vehicles, you notice there's a car passing here and there just isn't a lot of room for some of the larger vehicles in the area. So we changed some of the pavement widths and radius widths in the standards to address that. One of the other
You
recommendations.
changed, and we're in detail here, but the minimum you changed it to is 10 foot.
10 foot. There's some areas, some of the sections, and if you go through the sections in your packet, several of the, depending on the type of road and the classification of road, the lane widths went full 10-foot wide with a 2-foot curb and gutter section. Roads like Duck, where you're going to have multi-lanes, some of the lane widths went to 11.5 foot because you're going to have a lot more larger vehicle traffic and a larger quantity of that kind of traffic using the roadways.
Do you have the cross sections, the pages? Because there's one that I have a question about.
I have them here. I don't know that, we don't have them on an aerial, do we? No.
Turn to the neighborhood 60-foot right-of-way one.
Okay?
You notice it's got 10-foot lanes, and then it's got the 8-foot parking. And then if you notice the bump outs for the sidewalk.
Yes.
In my opinion, that needs a curb and gutter that go all the way around there. Because right now, if this is adopted the way I read this, that sidewalk is only 20 foot across there. And I believe that you need to have a 24-foot opening for the buses and large garbage trucks.
You're talking about at the crosswalk, the red
At the
area here?
crosswalk.
Where it's going through there?
Yes.
Okay.
Your picture's not the same as my picture, but that's good.
One of the things that we did, if you go back and look at this example here, if you look at with large vehicles, you need a larger radius to be able to make that maneuver. The drive lane's 10 foot, but the turning movement with a very tight, short radius makes the vehicle have to go way out and into the oncoming traffic to make that turn. One of the things that we've done is, in going with the larger radiuses, is to allow that. If you look at the photo here, you've got a real tight
Understand that,
radius.
But I'm in disagreement if you're suggesting this is correct, that sidewalk only needs to be 20 foot wide at that point. The crosswalk needs to be 20 foot wide. It needs to have the curb and gutter section right there to make it 24 foot, in my opinion, to get our buses through this area. If you got a bus coming one direction, a bus coming in another direction, I believe that needs to be 24 foot, which has the curb and gutter going around the curb.
Okay. That will add more access for large vehicles. I don't know that they didn't intend for that here.
I
But we can
understand that,
clarify that, yeah.
but if you add that to it, where your dark, mine is a dark color for the curb and gutter, if it goes all the way around there, I'll be happy. But you need to make the whole planning commission happy, just not me. But that was my comment on this one all the other cross sections showed that curb and gutter going through. Saw it everywhere. When I go to mixed use 66 foot right of way, it showed the dark area to go around the curb, so the crosswalk had that width in it. So to me, this is the only one that was not consistent with what I saw in the other drawings.
Mike,
Okay, yeah,
talking about this versus this.
right. I'm following. I don't know that this specifically addressed that. I know that we're looking at the through lanes and
To me, I've made my comment on
I
record,
understand.
and that you'll change this drawing if the planning commission concurs with this, and then I don't think any other changes are necessary, and if it gets to that point, we can do a motion as recommended, because this, to me, is a Scribner's error. It should have been there, because it was there on all the others.
All the other
I just want to point it out.
You may be right. I didn't produce this, so I'm not quite sure what the intent was, but I understand your point, so that may be something we'd have to clarify.
Yes, you'd clarify that, and if it's different than our anticipation, I believe it needs to come back to the planning commission.
Okay?
Thank you.
I don't know that we're finished quite yet.
No, you had to go to the parking commission.
Yep.
You've got comments on too.
All right. Well, some of the other changes have to do with parking garage clearance. We wanted to basically delete the requirement that the clearance be 8 foot. The building code has a couple of different requirements depending on whether you provide handicap access or the type of use and the type of clearance. You can go as low as 7'2" or as high as 8'2", and rather than add another layer to the building code, the recommendation was to take that out and just let that be a building code issue, so that there won't be a minimum parking garage clearance requirement. So right now it's 8 foot, but the building code will allow you to go to 7'2" or higher depending on ADA access. There's changes proposed for parking adjustments for shared mixed uses. Requires that adequate residential parking be provided regardless. I think the way that we had it set up before, you could have enough for residential use. You have a little small portion of mixed use and then have a huge reduction because of that mixed use in the total overall parking, and then have a problem with residential parking. Talked about the revising the lane widths to 10 foot plus, and we've looked at the street assemblies. Some of the assembly changes include adjustments on where the sidewalk and the bike paths are relative to the drive lanes. Move them over to reduce conflict. One of the other changes that has been brought to you has to do with parking. A lot of people don't like parallel parking, so they've identified angle parking in the center of the roadway on a couple of the sections. When you have just room for, in the middle for one row of parking, angle parking in the center, it will provide the same amount of parking that you would have with parallel parking down both sides. Where space is available, you can have 2 rows and effectively double the amount of parking in the roadway. Some photographs of some communities around the country that have parking in the center of the street. This is Goldsboro, North Carolina. They've got parking in the center of the street. Mount Olive, North Carolina. They've got a railroad right through the middle, but parking in the center of the street. This is Scotland Neck, North Carolina.
Can you go back to that one?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
This is Fort Collins, Colorado. They've got parking down the center and on the against the storefronts. This is Kingsport, Tennessee. Parking's in the center, and this is very similar to some of the sections. They've got the tree wells, a bike lane, through traffic with the center lane parking. This is Washington, Iowa. This is Long Beach, New York. Again, similar. We've got the bike lane, tree wells, sidewalk, and then the through traffic with the parking in the center. Long Beach, an aerial of Long Beach showing that it's not just individual streets. They've got parking in the center all through the downtown area. And Stillwater.
So it's grandfathered.
Yeah, yeah. The last item in there was to allow adjacent properties to voluntarily annex or be included in the form-based code area. We've had some properties just on the fringe want to include their property in the form-based code area because of the type of design development they want to do. So there's a provision to include that voluntary submission to those standards. Findings. None of the proposed changes will cause any safety concern. It should encourage appropriate development, and it's needed to simplify the form-based codes that we've proposed.
Any questions, Mr. Beatty?
I have one just informational question. Just from a practical standpoint, if a developer comes not familiar with Stillwater whatsoever, they want to develop in our prescribed form-based area, at what point, by amendments or what to the development code, would they find if we take something out of the form-based code and amend it with something from the National Building Code or something? How do they keep track of all that? Is that all updated on the website all the time, or just?
Well, yeah, the codes are on the website, and they're the design. All of the city design standards are online, so the form-based code's online, so they can look at that. I'm not sure that I understand your question. Do they have access to that, or?
Yeah. So if this goes through, gets amended, gets updated, at what point does that become, part of the development code, part of the?
It becomes part of it immediately. As soon as it's adopted and approved by city council. Now, how long it takes to get updated on the website, I'm not quite sure. It kind of varies a little bit, but as soon as somebody comes in, we will start working with them on the new code. And we'll advise them, say, hey, this is, if it's not updated on site, then we'll sit down with them and go over the changes immediately. But I don't know how quickly that happens.
The code, the one line stuff is updated annually.
Yes, but we have on our website, we'll have, for example, the drafts.
You have a new service that basically shows the changes, but in terms of actually placing it inside of the text code itself online, that happens on an annual basis.
Yeah, it won't be codified, but it's still, the changes are still available online through the city's
But if you
website.
go to the website, you can find the
Right.
change there and
Right,
find
if
out
you
what
go
the
to,
change is.
if you go to the part where it says city codes and it takes you to the Muni code site, that's only updated once a year. But if you go to the Development Services tab and look at the development guidelines, the new codes are all there.
Okay.
So, and that just takes processing. It's not quite that efficient yet.
No, I understand that.
And I think a lot of times they have revisions to the code section,
Yeah.
I believe, too, that you can see if it hasn't been,
Implemented.
implemented, you can at least see what the changes are.
Okay.
And there's, the way the form-based codes are set, I mean, they're kind of made to work with staff, and so we have meetings with them all the time and kind of go through the different issues and try to identify that with them.
Any other questions? Let me open the public hearing. Is there anybody here in favor of this particular item? Seeing none? Is there anybody against this particular item? Seeing none? I will close the public hearing. Mr. Beatty?
All right. Well, you can accept the staff findings, recommend approval of text amendment. You can recommend approval of the text amendment with modifications and certainly with the clarification on that one road section. That'd be an option. Or third, you might find that the text amendments are not needed and recommend the text amendments not be approved.
Thank you very much. Any comments? I'd like to make a comment in terms of the parking garage clearance. 7 foot 2 inches is the minimum. I don't believe for Stillwater, America, that is sufficient. I believe it should be a minimum of 8 foot on the bottom floor and a minimum of 7 foot 6 inches on all floors above that. We have got big vehicles, we've got tall vehicles. I've already got a couple calls that 7 foot 2 inches is not a good thing. I personally believe it is not a good thing. At Oklahoma State University, we're using 7 foot 6 inches to 7 foot 8 inches in ours and then the minimum 8 foot 6 inches on the lower floor. So if you've got an ADA van that is a little bit tall, we can get them in, get them parked and everything associated with that. But I think 7 foot 2 inches is too low.
That is very low. I mean, a standard, let's say residential garage door at home is 7 feet normally is your opening. Which lets most vehicles in. I personally drive an Expedition and it barely fits. So, if I have a tendency to agree with Mike that I think the 7.2 is probably a little bit low. Personally don't know that we need to separate between first floor and multiple floors. I hear you, but, I think I could support maybe like a 7.6 overall, personally. But
I'll agree with you.
I do believe 7.2 is too low.
Is it mostly for the ADA vans that you're wanting to be higher on the first floor?
If they don't have ADA parking outside the parking garage, they will have to have the first floor to hire elevation according to Oklahoma State University's interpretation of the ADA code. So I concur with you, we make it 7 foot 6 inches, and then if they don't have any ADA parking outside the parking garage, they're gonna have to make it 8 foot.
Sounds good to me.
You wanna make a motion with those
I'll
two
make
minor
I'll
changes?
make a stab. Okay, I'd like to find that the proposed text amendments are needed and recommend to the city council to approve the proposed text amendments with the following modifications. The neighborhood 60-foot right-of-way, distance at the crosswalk, basically we need to add 20, we need to make that a 24-foot width minimum. And then also, the amendment of on parking garages, 8-foot minimum clearance first floor unless ADA.
No, we wanna make it 7 foot 6 inches on all floors. That'll take care of it, because ADA code already takes care of the
Okay.
8 foot.
Okay, I'll amend that and say 7 foot 6 inches minimum on all floors.
If you concur with that.
I concur, yes.
Okay.
And that's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Let's vote. The motion passes 7-0. Item number 4, approval of the meeting summary for discussion and possible action. Approval of the regular meeting summary of March 15, 2016.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion passes. Next planning commission meeting is April 19, 2016. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Sorry, guys.
I think that was.
There's a lot going on there.
We are adjourned. Thank you.